People online are split about this.
The View is off the air, finally.
You think you know Morgan Freeman, the sage narrator with a golden voice, the Hollywood legend who has adorned our screens for decades, but what he said during this interview might make you see him in a completely different light. What began as a routine celebrity appearance turned into a cultural flash show that no one saw coming. Morgan Freeman has always been a man of profound words and unmatched gravitas, but his recent remarks on The View have taken the internet by storm and sparked one of the most heated debates in recent memory.
I said something that I feel a responsibility for not leaving unexamined because my words upset so many people.
Imagine this Freeman relaxing in a chair and appearing to be the legend that he is. The audience is likely anticipating the standard career tales and possibly some behind-the-scenes glimpses into his most recent endeavor. He has been fervently pushing a Civil War-era drama called The Grey House, but what they received was something much more unvarnished and authentic. Freeman wasted no time in getting right to the point. He began by delivering a biting indictment of Black History Month, a subject that has been discussed for years, but not with the clarity and passion that he did. He termed it an insult, plain and simple.
Black History Month you find
ridiculous.
Why?
You're going to relegate my history to a month?
Oh, come on.
What do you do with yours? Which month is White History Month?
Imagine this Freeman relaxing in a chair and appearing to be the legend that he is. The audience is likely anticipating the standard career tales and possibly some behind-the-scenes glimpses into his most recent endeavor. He has been fervently pushing a Civil War-era drama called The Grey House, but what they received was something much more unvarnished and authentic. Freeman wasted no time in getting right to the point. He began by delivering a biting indictment of Black History Month, a subject that has been discussed for years, but not with the clarity and passion that he did. He termed it an insult, plain and simple. You could sense the weight of Freeman's declaration that my history is American history, which was about more than simply the duration of February. It was about the idea of condensing a shared history to a single month. The crowd was astounded, and their applause, tentative at first but stronger as the reality of what he was saying set in, rippled through the room. Freeman wasn't there to sugarcoat anything. Rather, he was there to question the narratives that we've all been taught to accept without question. What's noteworthy is that he has expressed his distaste for Black History Month on multiple occasions over the years, beginning with an interview in 2005 in which he famously told reporter Mike Wallace that the idea behind Black History Month was absurd. Come on, tell me.
Come on, tell me.
Well, I'm Jewish.
Okay, which month is Jewish History Month?
There isn't one.
Oh, why not?
Yeah.
Do you want one?
No.
All right, I don't either. I don't want a Black History Month.
Fast forward to the present, and Freeman's remarks are still necessary and provocative, but this time he went even farther, calling out the term African American as another insult, saying that he doesn't subscribe to it and asking, what does it even mean? He leaned forward as if he were daring anyone to respond, and he would accept it. You say Africa as if it's a country when it's a continent like Europe? Most Black people in this region of the world are mongrels mixed with all sorts of other things, so why do we keep using these labels that don't even make sense? Social media exploded nearly instantly after the piece aired, and Freeman's remarks touched a chord with more than just the studio audience, and critics alike flooded platforms with their opinions, some praising Freeman for his candor and others accusing him of being out of touch. However, Freeman has always been unapologetic. He didn't change his mind or soften his position, and it was clear that he had no intention of doing so. This wasn't about courting favor or igniting controversy for the sake of it. Rather, it was about speaking a truth that he felt too many people were afraid to face.
Pretty good, huh? Remember the old days when you could turn on network television and hear something that actually made sense?
And here's the thing. By reducing Black history to a single month, Freeman's critique goes beyond semantics and surface-level complaints to address the structural problems that underlie these symbolic gestures. Freeman makes an argument the token effort, which he believes does more harm than good because it isolates Black history from the larger narrative of American history as though the two are somehow distinct, is essentially telling society, Here's your time. Now let's move on. If you don't know your past, if you don't remember it, you are bound to repeat it, he said, his voice carrying the kind of authority that only comes with decades of lived experience.
All of this sort of symbolic silliness, but the real moment in that, the kernel in that little video there, is when Morgan Freeman looks directly at Mike Wallace after he says he's Jewish, and he goes, "Do you want one?" Meaning, do you want a month, a Jewish history month? Maybe there is one. I actually don't even know. They probably added one since. Do you want one? And Mike Wallace is right. No, whoa, why would I want one of those, man? I don't want that.
The context in which Freeman's remarks were made was even more potent. He wasn't merely there to discuss his personal views. He was there to promote the GRY House, a television series that highlights the often overlooked contributions of Black Union spies during the Civil War. The timing couldn't have been more appropriate. A man who has dedicated his life to sharing stories both on and off screen, using his platform to elevate voices that history has attempted to silence, and yet he now finds himself battling against narratives that continue to minimize Black contributions to American history. The audience at The View was obviously unprepared for the intensity of Freeman's criticism, and the hosts appeared caught off guard. Unexpected as Freeman dismantled the concept of Black History Month and the label society uses to define race, even legendary figure Whoopi Goldberg appeared momentarily speechless before responding with a nod of agreement. "Morgan, you're right," she said in a softer-than-usual voice. "This is the kind of conversation we need to be having not just here but everywhere. But the producers of the show, that's a different story." Freeman continued discussing Hollywood's role in perpetuating these issues. The quick end of the segment may have been a coincidence, but anybody watching could sense the tension in the room and the implicit meaning that Freeman's comments were pushing the boundaries of what the program, and possibly its network, could tolerate. When the cameras panned to commercial, the audience gave a standing ovation, which was a rare instance of harmony in a world where people are frequently divided. However, the applause wasn't enough to silence the lingering question of why the segment was cut off just as it was getting to the crux of the issue.
Morgan Freeman's broad point there is stop talking about it, meaning the more you obsess over it, the more you make it feel real. And the more that it feels real, the more people will act on that fake realism. And we'll all walk around thinking that everything is racist.
Naturally, the response varies depending on who you ask. According to some ERS, it was just a matter of time running out. Some claim that the producers were uncomfortable with the route the discussion was moving, but in any case, cutting the section short only fueled the controversy, as fans took to social media to demand clarification. They couldn't handle the truth bombs that Morgan Freeman was unleashing. Thousands of retweets and likes were sent by one viewer's angry tweet, while another said, "What hope do the rest of us have if Morgan Freeman is unable to express himself on such a platform?" However, Freeman didn't come off as FAS, as evidenced by his composed manner throughout the piece, even though it was cut short, only strengthened his point. He was there to speak the truth as he sees it and utilize his platform to start a conversation that sorely needs to take place. And based on the response he received for Freeman, he wasn't there to argue or win anyone over. This is about holding Hollywood, the media, and society at large accountable for the stories they choose to tell and the ones they choose to ignore. It's about asking the difficult questions, even when the answers make us uncomfortable, and it's about reminding us all that history isn't just something we look back on. It's something we carry with us and shapes who we are.
Come to the end of Black History Month, we want to take another look at everyone that we've honored this year.
Even if you disagree with Freeman, you cannot deny the strength of his message or the bravery required to deliver it in a society that so frequently chooses comfort over truth. If Freeman has taught us anything, it is that the most significant stories are those that provoke thought and push us to view the world and ourselves in new ways. With that, the stage was set for one of the most heated cultural debates of the year, but this was only the beginning.
Which, by the way, is American history.
I can't believe the light went like that.
Yeah, we used to joke that it's only 28 days.
Shortest month.
It's the shortest month. And
This
it's like,
year, at least, we got one extra.
We got an extra day.
The aftermath of Morgan Freeman's fiery segment on The View was nothing short of explosive. If you thought the conversation would end when the camera cut away, think again. Instead, What happened after that abrupt commercial break has fueled a firestorm of debate that is still raging both online and off. Freeman's calm, yet commanding presence managed to turn what should have been a simple promotional interview into a cultural reckoning, and now the effects of his words are being felt far beyond the walls of that studio. To set the scene, the production crew at The View had just finished the segment when social media lit up like a fireworks display within minutes of Freeman's comments, were circulated with captions such as "Morgan Freeman is a legend," and his admirers were eager to commend him for destroying Black History Month in the nicest way possible. Freeman's remarks weren't just a viral moment. They were a cultural grenade thrown into the center of an ongoing debate about how history is taught, remembered, and celebrated for years. In an industry that frequently thrives on surface-level sound bites, critics accused him of being out of step with contemporary conversations about race and identity, with some even going so far as to call his perspective divisive. Black History Month has served as a lightning strike and a symbol of advancement, rod for criticism on the one hand, and on the other, as Freeman pointed out, it condenses centuries of history into a single month, frequently reducing complex stories to bite-sized narratives intended for convenience rather than depth. Freeman is not alone in his criticism, though, as Harvard historian Carter G. Woodson, who is credited with founding History Week back in 1926 and later expanded into Black History Month, once stated that the goal was never to isolate Black history, but to fully integrate it into the larger American story.
Whoopi has to rest her ginormous mouth in bed.
Freeman's comments regarding Black History Month were only one aspect of the conversation. The main point of contention was when he reiterated his disapproval of the term African American. This was not the first time he had made such a statement, but doing so in such a public place rekindled previous arguments. His remarks struck a chord, challenging not only the language used but also the presumptions behind it. While some viewers praised his candor, others highlighted the complexity of identity and the way that most Black people in the Western world come from diverse backgrounds. He also expressed frustration over the way that Africa is frequently treated as if it were a sing country rather than a continent, significance of defining oneself swift, and unrelenting social media backlash turned into a battleground with hashtags like Morgan Freeman and
How are we going to get rid of racism?
Stop talking about it. I'm going to stop calling you a white man.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you to stop calling me a black man. I know you as Mike Wallace. You know me as Morgan Freeman. You want to say, well, I know this white guy named Mike Wallace. You know what I'm saying?
Freeman's discussion of untold stories, such as those of Black battalions who fought in the Civil War, was one particularly moving moment. It was the ideal introduction to his most recent effort. Union spies during the Civil War are the subject of the historical play The Gray House. His words served as a reminder that history is never as straightforward as the textbooks. Freeman, who is an executive producer on the show, described it as a chance to highlight the contributions of people who have been largely forgotten about history. He said that the story of the series features a large number of people because we're acknowledging they were there, and it didn't just happen to one group of people to make it out to be, and that the tales we decide to share reveal just as much about us as the actual happenings, but this is where the fun really begins. There was a noticeable tension in the room as Freeman spoke with producers who were allegedly rushing to figure out how to rein him in, according to one anonymous source who claimed that the decision to cut the segment short was intentional, a move intended to reroute the conversation before it veered too far off course. Of course, The View's team denied these allegations, claiming that the segment simply ran out of time, but viewers were not buying it, and then there was the fallout. In the days after the broadcast, Freeman's remarks still dominated headlines, igniting debates in the classroom and even think pieces and op-eds. Teachers started utilizing the segment's snippets to start discussions about representation and how history is taught in classrooms. Actors and filmmakers came out in support of Freeman, praising him for his courage and calling for more honest storytelling in the industry. One well-known director tweeted Morgan Freeman isn't just speaking for himself, he's speaking for everyone. Activists cited Freeman's remarks as a wake-up call, asking society to reconsider not only how we celebrate Black history, but also how we integrate it into the larger narrative of American history. Some critics accused Freeman of being too critical, claiming that Hollywood has made significant progress in recent years. One producer stated in an interview that change takes time and that we're moving in the right direction through it all. There are those of us who are tired of seeing the same stories told through the same lens, but not everyone in the entertainment industry agreed. Freeman stayed out of the spotlight, allowing his comments and the discussions they generated to speak for themselves. As a guy who devoted his career to providing the voice of some of the most iconic parts in movies, he seemed to be implying that it wasn't about him. Morgan Freeman's stirring remarks continued to reverberate, igniting discussions and debates around the world. It became evident that this was only the beginning of a much larger conversation. Let's continue the conversation. Do you believe that Black History Month should be included in the larger narrative of American history, or does it merit its own dedicated time? How do you feel about the labels we use to define race and identity? Leave your ideas in the comment section below, and together we can engage, talk, and learn from one another until the next time. Until then, stay inquisitive and keep asking questions.